Hey, and good Monday afternoon, everybody. It is Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, back in here. Latest on Milton decided that, you know what, this thing's just changing too much hour to hour to not just to do a regular daily. So we're going to do live updates from here on out. Now, if you're catching this live broadcast after my update here and you like to kind of make these part of your normal YouTube feed, before I kind of get into this, please go ahead and please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're alerted on future content. As I'm going to give you the facts, I'm going to give it to you straight. And, one thing I will say, this is definitely not a hype machine. This is a very dangerous and serious situation. So my regulars out there, Big Juan, I see you out there. I don't see 180 officially. It hasn't come down from the hurricane, so at least not updating on their chart just yet, but it's possible. This is an historic storm, just like Helene was an historic storm. So is this one going to be. Category 5. I'll have to go back and check. I'm sure it's going to be a top 5 as far as pressure fall that we've seen in a 24-hour period. Wilma dropped down at 97 millibars, dropped down below, I think, 888 millibars on that one back in 2005. I had to look that one up. But this one's trying to make a run at it. It had a very tight circulation center. But those are the latest coordinates there for you, folks. Still running east about 9 miles per hour. It's forecast to stay just offshore of the Yucatan, but boy, it's not a big wind field, folks. It's fairly tight. Hurricane force winds go about 40 miles from the center, and the tropical storm force winds only about 90 miles or so from the center. So, but this thing's going to change. It's going to evolve. It's going to unfurl itself as it moves closer to the coastline. I think officially they had, as of the 11 o'clock advisory, that would make landfall with 125 mile per hour winds. Now that it's spun up to 175, I think it's likely we may see a Category 4. And right now, Tampa is still in the crosshairs. And we're talking, if it gets into Tampa Bay, we're talking 16 feet plus storm surge going into downtown Tampa. Again, you can't downplay this. I hope everybody along the eastern seaboard of the west coast of Florida, I should say, not eastern seaboard, west coast of Florida is batting down the hatches and getting ready to anywhere from Cedar Key all the way down toward Naples. It's a wide spectrum there because there's some other factors here that are going to go because the storm's going to grow. It's going to get absorbed into a jet stream. There's a lot of things going on as it approaches the coast. It makes this one a little bit tricky as far as its forecast is concerned. So let's go ahead and get into all this. I want to go ahead and get you all this. If you got any questions, by the way, please post them down below. I'll be more than happy to answer those and get you onto this, okay? So we can look right here at the infrared imagery. We're talking about an eye that's about 8 miles across. It is a donut hole. And we knew this yesterday. It had a very small, compact wind field. A lot different than Helene. Helene was a big storm. It was 450 miles across for tropical storm force winds, and this one was barely not even 100. Now, that's going to change again, and I'll show you this in the model data as it's going to really open up, almost like a skater letting that energy out. It's going to expand big time and probably have a tropical storm force winds that'll get close to maybe 350 miles from the center as it makes landfall. But this thing's a big little donut hole on this. We can go into the visible imagery here, and again, you get the classic stadium setup here. The stadium effect where the center is just completely cleared out. You see all the way down to the ocean. We saw this with Hurricane Michael back in 2018. Something about those M storms. I remember Mitch, Central American storm. That was another M storm. That was a classic as well. Wilma, which was also an October storm. It also had the big pressure falls with that one as well. But this is a monster hurricane. And what's bad for Florida on this, okay, is the fact that we're already dealing with rain not associated with the storm. We're already getting some heavy rains across Florida. That's going to continue here for today and tomorrow before we get the landfall on Wednesday. So just like with Helene with the frontal system, we're going to have some pretty saturated grounds before this thing ever makes landfall as we go into the next couple days. So those rainfall amounts are going to be looking pretty hot and heavy, to say the least, on that. All right, let's take a look here. This is, of course, Key West. They're going to be on the outer fringes of this thing. Well, I'm sure those cruise ships are going to be heading on out and getting on out of the way here in the days to come. Ground zero, if I was going to kind of paint you one, not Tampa, let's go over here, is going to be Siesta Key. That is just south of Tampa, if that's where it goes. Now, if it goes further north on that, it's going to make a really big difference on what kind of storm surge we're going to deal with. Usually when we tell you about a hurricane, don't pay attention to the exact track because of the eye and stuff. But in this situation, we're talking about storm surge and where the placement of a couple of those bays are on the west coast of Florida. It makes all the difference in the world. So the exact track is critical about what kind of storm surge you're going to get along the west coast of Florida. Not to mention the fact this thing's going to accelerate. We're probably going to have hurricane warnings on both coasts. There'll be hurricane warnings on both coasts when this thing's all said and done. It's going to be moving across the state of Florida, and it'll be transitioning. It's going to morph from a tropical system into an extratropical system fairly quickly as it goes up the eastern seaboard. Luckily, it's going to stay offshore the way it's looking right now. But the beach shot doesn't look bad today. It'll be interesting to see what that beach begins to look like heading into tomorrow, and especially on Wednesday morning, as that thing will be getting closer and closer at that time. Now, let's talk about the storm surge. That's what I want to kind of get into here. I want to get into the storm surge here. This here is a reflection of what it looks like. I want to show you the different levels here again on the different storm surges, okay? This is important because depending on the category, depends on how quick. This is the Bay of Tampa. This is a major, big metropolitan area here, St. Petersburg and Tampa, okay? Let's go to Cat 1. It doesn't look that bad, okay? But we step it up, take it to Cat 2. All right, then you're talking about some problems getting in there into Tampa itself. Cat 3 is what we're expecting. You're getting your flooding in the down 4. Let's take this thing up to a Cat 4 because it's possible we may be seeing a Cat 4 there. Look how much of that gets inundated with flooding. I mean, just a tremendous amount of flooding. Or look at the little peninsula of St. Petersburg. It's all underwater, all downtown Tampa, all underwater of we get a Cat 4 that's going to blow in there. So again, the exact placement is going to be critical on where this thing's going to go. This kind of shows you the different steps. All right. Now, what I want to show you here, this is what the forecast map is. Right now, they've got it up to 12 feet, and they've got a pretty wide spectrum here. And the reason for that is because they're not exactly sure yet exactly where it's going to make landfall. Okay, so if it makes let's say it does this. It makes landfall up here near Tampa. That means this up here, you're not getting that kind of storm surge because the wind's going to be blowing back to the opposite direction, okay? So, but down to the south of that track, that means all the storm surge will be coming in that way. Okay, you get that counterclockwise flow there. So where it sits is very critical on what kind of storm surge we're going to get along the west coast of Florida for that day. Now, I want to go ahead and show you what I guess you could call this one of the official forecast modeling. Okay, what this does here is it takes where the current track is from the hurricane center, and it extrapolates what the storm surge is going to be. Let me see. I'm going to need to probably update this real quick because I didn't reset this before I came on. So because it's got the new data and stuff like that in here. So let me go in here and do a quick reset on them. I'll go ahead and refresh this page. So bear with me as I go ahead and refresh this and turn that off. And then we're going to go zoom in, make sure it's got the latest data on here, and I'll make sure it's got the real good stuff. So you got that little gap on it. Yeah, it's come up significantly. Yeah. This is bad. This is the track. This is a worst case scenario for Tampa. And this is changed from this morning. If it follows that path, you're talking about some serious flooding, just like I showed you there from this is actually the forecast here. The other one was just kind of showing you what it looks like depending on the storm. So you're talking about some serious flooding there into Tampa, getting in there to St. Petersburg, and all the way down the coast, down towards Sarasota and Siesta Key. Tremendous storm surge, upwards of 16 feet possible getting into Tampa. Now, let's hope that the track shifts a little bit, okay? If it shifts further south, then we're talking about this bay down here to the south, down toward, say, Punta Gorda, where the Hurricane Charlie hit back in the day, Fort Myers area, if it shifts further south. But if it stays on that current path, it stays up there, just goes a little bit north of Clearwater, all that water will go into the bay. Helene did some storm surge damage in there, but nothing like this because it's heading straight for them. Helene gave them a glancing blow. This is going to shove all that water into that area, okay? So, again, this is what I'm expecting from the storm on this, all right? We're expecting, again, tremendous flooding. We're already going to have saturated grounds. We're going to have flooding across. Luckily, this thing's moving at a pretty decent speed, but flash flooding is going to be running high. Wind damage, obviously, with hurricane force winds expected across northern and central Florida, going right across the coast there. Tornado threat for central and south Florida. On the right side of that eye, that's where the tornado threat will be. Storm surge, very high, just like Helene, off the chart. And power outages will be significant for the central core, where those core winds are going to go from Tampa all the way across, possibly getting into Orlando, and then going off the coast there. I do expect hurricane force winds across the entire peninsula. It won't matter what coast you're on. It'll, of course, be stronger, obviously, on the west coast than the east coast, but you're looking at hurricane force winds on both coasts. All right, let's go ahead. Let's talk about some other. We've talked about everything that's going on with this. Let's go ahead and get ready for some of the data on this one. I'm going to go ahead and see if the 12Z's up here yet. I got the European 12Z just coming in, Yep, it's there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the model data here. I want to talk about this, but it's amazing that the pressure's down to 911 millibars. It's just amazing to see this thing fall off that much. So this is the latest 12Z European data, which has not done well with the strength, okay, but I do watch it for its track, okay? And it brings this thing up to this way, and it looks like it's making a landfall pretty much where the hurricane center is going, because the European did nail Helene pretty well on this right now, and you're looking at a landfall here. It's a little bit slower than the official track. This looks like around almost the same time. Helene made landfall about 11:30, and this is looking like about the same time going into Wednesday night with this system as it crosses the coast and then it moves on out. Then we got a high pressure in there to move on in. But that is the European model latest run right there, coming in around 11 o'clock at night and crossing the state there on your Wednesday. All right, let's look at the different model here. I'm going to switch over to one of the hurricane models here. I want to show you something here. I want you to watch the wind field. Watch the wind field on this, as this thing is going to, it's again, wound up extremely tight. So the hurricane force winds are very close. The tropical storm force winds are very close to the system. You can see how concentric and how tight this thing is. It is wound up like a very tight donut. Again, a much different storm than Helene was. Helene took a while for its eye to kind of shrink down. This thing has always had a tight one to begin with its eye and circulation center. So let's go and track this. This is the 12Z run on this hurricane model here. Again, still looking pretty tight as it's going past the Yucatan Peninsula. But as we go in throughout the day on Wednesday, look at this wind field begin to expand out quite a bit. Very rapidly, it starts to spread its wind field out quite a bit. Notice by the time we get toward 5 o'clock, we're already getting some winds in here, getting close to 70 miles per hour there in the Tampa area, according to this particular hurricane model here. All right, so again, let's track this one that's just come on in, and it's following a path very similar to the European model, but taking a direct hit on Tampa. Again, when we say historic, we mean it. The last time Tampa had a direct hit from a hurricane, we're talking 1921, folks. It's been that long. A major hurricane, 1921. It has been over 100 years since they've seen a storm like this one. And right now, the winds here, these are gusts, aren't that bad on this particular hurricane model. Let's pray and hope it does come down. This is showing basically a Category 2 hurricane on this particular model. But here's the thing with this system. As it's moving across Florida, it really transforms it. Look at all the winds stay on the north side of the system. Not the right side, but on the left side. Really kind of weird on this. So what's happening is it's starting to get absorbed into the jet stream, and it's going to turn extratropical very fast. Within 24 hours after landfall, it's becoming extratropical and kind of zooming on out to sea. It doesn't even look like a tropical system anymore when it gets over on the Atlantic side, but it does at landfall. So as it's making its transition across Florida, it's going to change pretty quickly. And what's driving this train is, again, that jet stream, which is picking this thing up. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this again as we look at this right here. So here's our tropical system down here. You got a little bit of a decent subtropical jet coming through here, and then you've also got a deepening trough here across the New England states. So it is going to absorb and take into Milton and just shoot it right up. Look at that jet stream, really gets very energized there off the eastern seaboard there because of the energy from that hurricane going up that way, and then it kind of moves on out. So again, kind of a weird setup. It's definitely a little bit different. I haven't seen one like this in a long time, but the jet stream is definitely going to absorb this thing as it moves on through. The good news is once it goes by, we'll see things looking a lot better. But again, I'll back this thing up again as we got a weak tropical little something out ahead along that frontal boundary causing rains into Florida today and tomorrow. And then we'll see this thing come across as we go in through the day on your late in the day on Wednesday, going to Thursday. This one's actually a little slower on the European model here. It shows it kind of, again, landfall about 11 o'clock, and then overnight, again, going across Florida and then moving up to north. It looks like a lot of the heavy winds will be on the north side. Again, a little atypical here than on the right side, because the angle of approach. Remember, Helene was going south to north. This is kind of moving from west to east, and there's only been like 14 storms like that historically that have done that, have moved from the west and gone to the east. There's only been 14 of them. So again, very rare to see. Does present its own forecast challenges because it's atypical. It's something we don't normally see. All right, so this thing's going to move on off, and then we'll see things begin to improve. Then we got to talk about the, let's look over here. We'll talk about rainfall amount totals, which are going to be significant here across South Florida. Let's go ahead and take this all the way out. and it has backed off the rains a little bit. Not quite as bad as what it was showing earlier, but still looking at some pockets about 8 to 9 inches on the north side of this thing as it's crossing the Florida peninsula there as we go into Wednesday night into Thursday. So it's going to be a busy period there for that. So again, I want to recap this again. If you're just now joining us here on the live update here on our hurricane, and I just want to double check, make sure it hasn't changed. It's like every time I check it, it was changing for something. So let me double check this thing, because someone was saying, did it officially go to 180? No, it did not officially go to 180. I was just double checking that. So top sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. We're talking about a Category 5 hurricane here. State of emergency up for the whole state of Florida. Again, I suspect by the 5 o'clock advisory, we may see hurricane warnings go up along the coast, watches going on the other side of that coast, but it is going to be dramatic. Hopefully everybody down along that west coast from Cedar Key still cleaning up from the storm surge that inundated that area. If it stays south of Cedar Key, the wind's blowing offshore. At least they won't get any more storm surge. But hopefully this thing doesn't creep any further north than what it is. If it creeps south of Tampa, at least Tampa doesn't get the bad flooding, but that means Fort Myers and the folks down south will get it. So you pick your feast or famine, pick your poison. Somebody along the west coast of Florida is going to get hit with a dramatic storm here. The question is how strong it's going to be and where exactly is going to be that exact position for landfall for the system. And what will happen, I mentioned this before when we were doing Helene's coverage, is that when we get to landfall, or the day of, it'll become a nowcast type event. We'll have to watch the wobbles. We'll have to see how the storm, again, is throughout the day on Wednesday. I do expect the transition, the changes to take place with the hurricane, where the wind field's going to expand greatly. We'll have to see how any kind of wobble, any kind of influence from the jet stream may bring it further north, further south. It's going to become like a nowcast type event. So we're going to watch that very closely. So here's my plan of attack so you know it, all right? We're coming up on 20 minutes on this update. I want to try to keep these to about 20 minutes, all right? So we're going to do another update at 5 o'clock. I'll give you the latest 5 o'clock advisory. We'll do one again at 8, all right? Then tomorrow, same thing, 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock. We'll continue with those updates. Now, by 5 o'clock tomorrow, extended coverage. We'll go into extended coverage mode. We'll do about 3 or 4 hours in that evening. And then on Wednesday, as soon as I get up and get ready, we'll start broadcasting, and we will go until we get to landfall. We'll do the exact same thing we did with our Helene coverage. Again, if you're new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, my name is Greg. I'm your personal weatherman here on the Weather Nerds channel. If you could please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when these lives are coming at you. I will try to schedule them up on YouTube as best I can to keep you guys abroad. Again, I will try to keep you informed. I will keep you steady. I'm not going to sit there and be, going nuts. But this is a significant storm. I cannot downplay it. It is a monster hurricane. I don't throw that term around very, very loosely. When we're dealing with a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, that's what we're dealing with. So, Captain Skywalker, he's in Cape Coral. Oh boy, just listen up there, brother. Here I got my Cat 4 in 2022. He plans to ride this one out. Boy, he better not. I wouldn't. I would definitely head inland. No way am I heading for that. Kind of looking at some of your comments here before I head on out here. DeLand is in a state of emergency. Just announced family lives there. Best friend lives in Tampa. He boarded up and leaving. And my aunt, well, I'm sure they're got a couple of days. There'll be a lot of folks that'll be heading northward, heading toward Jacksonville, Tallahassee, probably coming up into Georgia. Get up to Georgia, it'll be fine. But the problem is you're going into southeast Georgia. They're still cleaning up from Helene. I don't even know if they got all the power back up there. That's another thing I got to add to this presentation is I need to put the power outage map in here. I have not added that yet, but that just reminded me of that. So going through your comments here, folks. Yeah, Panama City, you're fine. You're okay. You don't have to worry about Panama City. And but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting next 48 to 60 hours until we get to our landfall. All right, that's it for now. It's coming up on 2:20 Eastern Daylight Time. We'll see you back in here for the 5 o'clock advisory. Until then, you guys stay safe, be prepared. And if you know anybody down in Florida, man, tell them not to ignore this one. This is one you definitely don't want to ignore. And hopefully the folks there in the Yucatan Peninsula are off the beaches. And hopefully this thing does not get too close, doesn't cause any main damage there. And those winds being so tight, let's hope they stay offshore. All right, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. We'll see you at 5 o'clock. Bye, guys.